Milk now needs to be kept at least temperature for 90 minutes. Oh gosh. That's too big in my opinion.
I know, but we're in a dry climate, so I'm not going to cut them as small.
Do you want to have this argument right here and now?
I'm cutting the smaller, you turd. Now my cheese is going to be dry. I don't blame you. It actually goes really far down. Like the knife has to go almost all the way to the bottom of the pan.
Keeps like focusing and then unfocusing.
Yeah, just hold it really still. So the curds will separate, and they just need to sit and rest, and you'll see the big chunks in a minute. Those are the curds, and the liquid is the whey. It's just kind of cool.
Wet, found some mud somewhere, got dirty. Now we can make my kitchen dirty. Sounds like Fergus.
Yeah, it sounds like the dogs are in.
Sounds like the dogs. That's what they flip and do all the time. Ooh, Lila, you got some pink eyes.
Yeah, she's got herself dirty.
What?
I just...
Good?
Yep. Okay. This back over here. Okay, you go ahead and pour that.
Skim milk.
Okay. Yep. I'm just going to change the sides. This one.
That one's full.
Okay, I'll do the next one.
Just the video?
Yeah. I didn't wash this one out. That might just be
I
enough.
had the lid on.
That might just be enough to fit in the bowl. I don't know.
Okay, let's see.
Let's see, we can probably fit it in the bowl, and if not, we'll just keep the extra. Here, just keep going. Go and let the curds fall on too.
Oh gosh.
Well, that was pretty good. We want this a little bit.
Okay.
I'm just gonna let it drip in here for a second. We'll get the dogs and they can eat that cheese curds. Okay. Put this back in.
Okay.
Our
Go.
pot. Just like- okay. All right. Okay, so these are our cheese curds, and this is our whey. Some of the whey, the rest of the whey is in our jar. But the whey comes off, and then the curds is a chunk. And then we're going to start our cheddaring process, where we actually take this chunk of cheese and you basically flip it all the way over like a pancake, but with like the spoon and at certain intervals of time. And what it does is it sends the moisture back and forth, up and down through the cheese, and that's what is the cheddaring process, and it makes it a cheddar instead of just a different type of cheese. So it's really interesting. I'll show you as we go. Okay, so now we're to the cheddaring, and what we do here is it's been sitting in this pan. It lets off a little bit of liquid, okay, and this is my method because you're supposed to flip it. Oops. You're supposed to flip it over. like a pancake. So now this side right here is going to be on top of what was on the bottom. And I put it back down in the pan, and I just keep doing that. So it's just going to sit there. It'll sit on the stove like this, and I'll just keep sitting, and we just keep flipping it back and forth like that every 15 minutes for about 2 to 3 hours until the liquid kind of stops coming off. I think the liquid will always be some that comes off, but for the most part it should be like hardly anything. And there wasn't very much that came off, and I've been doing this now for almost, well, not quite 2 hours, an hour and a half, you know. And so we just kind of keep it at the right temperature, and we keep flipping it like that, and that's how we do the cheddaring, because as it strains out, the liquid sits in the bottom of the pan, so the top is drier than the bottom of the cheese. And when you flip it, you put that wet side back up on top, and that causes gravity to push it back to the bottom of the pan. And for whatever reason, that going up and down of liquid is what makes the cheddar, that's what makes cheddar. So that's what we're doing, and this is the cheddaring process of making cheddar cheese. So after an hour, you cut it in half, and then you get one side. See if I can do this carefully while holding the camera. One side goes on top of the other side. Okay, and then you keep flipping it. I forgot to do this part, so I've been going for 2 hours now. Well, almost. I'm getting close to 2 hours, and I forgot to do that part. So now it's double stacked. And I'll take that whole thing, not with my hands obviously, but take that whole thing and flip it for the rest of the 2 hours to make my cheddar. So, whoops, forgot that part. Oh well, it'll be okay still. After you're done flipping it, you're really careful not to break it. And then you put it in this bowl and you weigh it, and you do the salt at a 2% of the weight, so much salt you put in. And then you crumble it all up to the sizes about the size of like your thumb. And that's how you get the salt added into it. And it won't be as thick of salt in the end, because some of the salt will drip out in the whey. But that's the next step, is to salt it. Okay, we're getting the press ready now to put the cheese in.
Should we do this double thick or normal?
Do it double thick. There's a lot of it, so it's okay.
Good?
Yeah. Just kind of push it in. Yeah. Okay. So I'll do this part. It's kind of tedious. Little smash in too. Be nice if I could just pour it in.
It's too big.
Almost there.
Is that the same diameter as our
other one?
Yeah.
No, this one's a little skinny. It's a little skinnier than our other one.
Okay.
Okay. Little caps that'll fill in. Alright. That's the whole pan. Just smash that down a little bit. Okay. You just fold the cheesecloth in the top. This is kind of a big cloth, but that's okay. Alright. This type of press is really cool because it's all screwed in. So You hold it in place?
Oh, I gotta get this on the grooves. No, not these.
I can't get it so much anymore.
So these tight now.
And then this guy works as the weight. So, I haven't used this type of cheese press before, but it seems like a pretty cool press. And you don't have to put weights on it, because you just press this, and then I can feel this inner piece we put in start to push against the cheese. You can twist it, that's fine. And you can feel kind of the stress on it a little bit. And you're supposed to tighten it only so far, and then every hour come and tighten it again for a certain amount of time, and then let it just sit, and it will weep out here. Oh, there we go. Yep. The liquid will start coming out the bottom, and that's why it's in this tray, so it doesn't end up all over my kitchen. But that's the extra whey, so it's pressing it by getting as much whey out of the cheese as possible. And it has to be dry enough to wax it. So I always wax my cheddar cheese, so if it's too wet, then it doesn't wax right, but it has to run out the whey.
You can call that good.
Okay, then we'll come back in an hour and we'll tighten it a little bit more.
Well, for the first hour, let's set a timer for, every 10 minutes or something, and then
just check on it.
And then just make it snug.
Okay, and also with cheddar, one thing I almost forgot is the cheese is in here, and then every time I come to tighten it, I'm supposed to take this block out, which is really easy. It just shimmies out the bottom, and then flip it over again, and then keep pressing it, because every time you flip it, it increases that's the cheddaring process, and you want to do that a bunch of times, which it's really easy, but it also makes the cheese really good. So we'll come back and check on this guy in a little while. Okay, I'm back in from doing night chores. I'm doing the last thing with the cheese, and then it needs to sit for 24 hours. It's pretty late, and I'm really tired. So I'm gonna show you the last thing. This is super easy. So here we go. Okay. You can see how it's getting pressed in there. That's the towel. That's the cheesecloth in there. It's getting smashed in. But so it was this way, and now we're gonna flip it by just doing whoop. Super easy. And then we're just gonna put the lid on the top now and push it down. Okay, and then we're going to just put the weights on here and let this sit for 24 hours before it comes out. So get that lined up. There we go. I just don't have it lined up right. There we go. Okay, that just holds that in place right there. And this is going to be my press. Oops. Alright. It's already a little bit of whey coming out. And then we'll let this sit for 24 hours. And then we will take care of it again. Okay, we took the cheese out of the press. So we just took it out of here, put it on the counter, and then you just unwrap it. And you let it just kind of rest. Okay, and then one side usually has a little tiny bit of a bump, because when you wrap it up, it's not going to be perfectly smooth. So you should just slice that off. So now, if you make this just for consumption, family, you could just store this in the fridge, or I like to wax my cheese and then age it. And since this is just for my family, that's why I'm touching it with my hands. Otherwise, I would have gloves and stuff. But I personally really do like to wax my cheese, and so I might just actually cut this one in half, wax half of it, age it, and let my family eat the other half, because we love this cheese so much. It is so good. And we could pretty much just free eat this block, probably today. It's a pretty good sized block too that we got out of it, so that's nice. And yeah, that's how we make cheddar cheese, and we can age that for 3 to 6 months if we can wait that long. But usually we age it for just a few weeks and then eat it, and because we just like it a lot, and so it's hard to let it wait. But it's really, really good cheese, and I recommend making it because it's so good. Like, you just don't even understand until you try it. You're like, wow, where has this been all my life? And it's just really good cheese. Okay, now we have our cheese out of the cloth, and I cut mine in half because I want to age it for 2 different lengths of time. And this is what I like to use. I really like, this is New England cheese making supply company, and I love their stuff. I buy their stuff. So this is the cheese wax that I use. I usually get red because I don't know, I'm just kind of a nerd. I like red colored cheese, and so that is going to take a little while to melt. But I have red in there, so I think it'll probably just, I don't know, probably all just go black, you know. But, so we'll melt this wax in the pot. This pot has water in it, and then this is my wax pot. And so we'll melt that, and then we will dip this cheese in the wax. So, and I will show you that whole process in just a minute. Okay, now we have our cheese that is ready to be waxed. Okay, so I actually cut the cheese right here into 2 pieces because, I'll turn that off, because I want to age it at different times, like I said, and I let it dry until it's the texture that I wanted it to be. I don't want it to be dry, and I don't want it to be wet. If it's too wet and you put wax on it, it like weeps in the wax. I don't know, it just doesn't work right. I'm not sure what the technical words are for it, but you want to have the cheese be not too dry, but not too wet, because it's too dry, it's crumbly. If it's too wet, it doesn't wax right. So I have my slice. I chopped some of it off because we like this cheese and we nibble on it. So I chopped some off for the rest of us. So this is what I have left to wax, are these 2 pieces. One of them I'll sit for 6 months, and the other one this one I'll do for 3 months. So I have in this pot is my wax, okay? And I'm just going to dip it in. I'll show you as I pull it up because it's going to be easier for you to see anyway. Okay, so I dip it once. My wax needs to be a little bit hotter. It cooled down a little bit while I was preparing for this video. So get it just a little bit hotter just so it's not thick. Okay, so we just dip it, and then let me dip that one more time. You're really just going to dip it one way, but I personally like to over wax my cheese. I know it doesn't need to be waxed as much as I like to wax it, but I would just rather be safe than sorry. Personally, that's just my opinion, is that you really only need to dip it one time, but I like to dip it several times in the same way, just because I like to be sure I got everything. Okay, and so, whoops, got a little bit on the side. And then it's pretty much just exactly what it sounds like. You're just really dipping it in the wax a million times, and then make sure there's no, I'm checking right now to make sure there's not a little bubble that is clearly like would pop, and then the air would get in, because then you'll ruin your cheese. So I'm just making sure, oh, like right there, I hit the side. See that little white spot right there? That's not covered, and that will start to go bad because it's not covered up. So I want to make sure that my cheese is fully waxed and not having any little gaps. And it dries pretty fast. So like I can touch this wax already. It's already dry. I just want to make sure it's going to not slide, because I have dropped cheese in the wax before because I touched wax that wasn't quite dry enough, and so when I held on to it, it just slipped everywhere. Okay, so now I have waxed the cheese and my fingers. So it's a job well done. I know there's people that like to brush wax. I personally don't. I don't have any reason why I do or why I don't like to brush wax. I like dipping it. I don't know, personal preference. If anyone has any knowledge in that way they want to share, go for it. Let me know. I would love to learn why things are done the way they are. But this is the way I do it, and I'm sure brushing it is going to make it look prettier because there won't be any fingerprints on it, you know. And so I'm just right now, I had some wax that was a little bit too warm, and so it went on really thick. So right now I'm just kind of making it look a little bit prettier by getting some of that wax off, and then so it can smooth out. So that guy is fully covered, and I will set him, let's just slide this over, set him right here on this paper towel. And if that wasn't dry enough, this is just little tiny pieces of wax that are on my fingers. I can put that right back in because I washed my hands, they're clean, and I just need to melt that wax again. So that's fine, we can melt it again. So I have this one that's done first. It's kind of weird to have black wax because I always use red, so that kind of reminds me of chocolate. But anyway, that one is done already, and then this one I'll do the same thing with it, is that we'll dip it. Okay, so the wax is hotter, so I'm thinking it will probably go on a lot smoother this time than it did last time. But yeah, you basically just want, you don't want the wax to boil, you just want the wax to be liquid form, and that's all. Oops, I missed a spot right there. Okay, so there we go. Now I'll do this end. It's really fun to do. If I was making this for a family member, like outside my immediate family, or for a friend or something, I would wear gloves and probably try to make it look as beautiful as possible. But the fact I'm alone, that we're probably going to eat at least one of these tonight, makes me be like, eh. We'll do a so-so job on the wax because it's not going to be on here for very long either. Oops, I got a bubble in that spot. I don't want any bubbles, so I'm just going to peel that off. Which I could just keep waxing over them. I don't want any bubbles because bubbles are going to, I don't want anywhere that the air could get in, you know. So if there's a bubble and then I like shift it on the counter or something and I rupture a bubble or anything like that, I don't want to have air get into my cheese when I don't know there's air on it, because then I'll open it in 6 months all excited and it will be like gross. And I don't also want to poison my family by having, you know, bad cheese. So I'm really careful about the waxing process because I want to do a good job. And if you're ever concerned at all, you can, you know, refrigerate and stuff like that. But yeah, this is only going so. We'll see how this turns out. It's been a while since I've waxed cheese, and I'm sure you can tell because my cheese wax job looks like a piece of chocolate cake that someone was really excited to eat. But you can make wax look really pretty, and I have before. It's just I don't think I've made cheddar cheese in like 5 years.
No.
It's been a while, so a little rusty, but we'll get there. We'll get there. And for the teaching purposes of it, it doesn't have to be pretty to be effective. So as long as, oh gosh, as long as you don't drop the cheese in the wax like I just did, then you'll be good. All right, well, that backfired. Okay, well, you know, there's always room for improvement in everything you learn how to do. So don't worry if you make a disastrous mess. You're in good company, because I am also making a disastrous mess of what I'm doing. This wax job is really crazy, so, and it's all over my hands. This is a bit much. I'm not going to put this back in the pot. You know, 1 or 2 pieces is fine, but there we go. Wax the cheese. It will be really good, like, oh, let me just move this over so you can see. So here's the waxed cheese. It looks beautiful. Some of it looks more beautiful than others, but that's okay. The more practice you get, the better it will turn out, and you'll be fine. You know, I'm a bit rusty, and so my cheese is only so waxed, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. And actually, waxing cheese is really kind of fun. And you can chop it into a million different pieces and be like, okay, we're gonna eat this one here, and this one there, and this one, you know, at this time, so you have plenty of cheese to eat whenever you want, you know. Or if you want to give to someone, but you're like, oh, I don't know if they're gonna eat a whole one, you can just chop it into 4s and make a really cute little wedge and stuff. And then there's lots of different colors. There's black and red, and I think there's usually white, but you can wax it in all sorts of fun things. I usually do red because I love seeing like a little red thing on my shelf of all my cheeses, and I just think it looks super cute, and because I wanted to, so I buy red. But they didn't have red this time, so I did black, which is fine. This looks cool too. It just reminds me of chocolate. And there you go. That is how you make cheese. This start to finish project is kind of a long haul. It's not a fast thing to make cheddar cheese at all. I wish it was, because if it was, we'd make it a lot more. But from start to finish, let's see, I started this Sunday at 10 a.m. and it is now, what is today? Even Tuesday at 3. So it takes a long time. Not all of it is as labor intensive, but all of it is going to take some homebodiness, you know. So like the first work of the cheese is going to take a lot more of your time, but there's lots of things where it's like, let it sit for an hour and then do this next step. Or the cheddaring process where you're supposed to flip it every 15 minutes for 2 to 3 hours. That's a little bit more labor intensive at that time, but the whole thing is not, it's not insanely like difficult to do. It's all really easy. You just have to be within, you know, a few feet from your kitchen. So I can still do work on the homestead. I can still be outside taking care of the animals. I can still feed the family. I can still do chores like normal. I just got to make sure that I'm not too far from the stove so that I don't ruin my cheese, because I was trying to multitask. So that's all with cheeses. It's just a little bit of a long haul. And I know that the machine work and stuff makes things a lot better, but I personally like doing things by hand because it's feeding my family. I'm not doing it for anyone else other than family or friends, and so it's not a big deal to me to make cheese. Plus, it's kind of exciting and it's fun. It's fun to cook sometimes. So there you go, making cheese. The first day is going to be your longest haul on making cheese, and then after that, no, hold on. After that, it's a lot of just wait time. So it's on the cheese press for 24 hours, and that's not a big deal. It just sits there. I don't have to do anything with it. I don't even have to be home. It just has to sit there for 24 hours. So I would definitely recommend that you guys try making cheese. It's really fun, and cheddar is one of my favorites, and there's lots of different types of cheeses. So it's really fun making cheese because you have so many varieties of cheese that you can make, that you can pretty much make whatever you feel like making. And this is goat milk cheese from my Alpine goat that's in milk right now. I have Alpines and Sannins, and they make good cheeses and things too. And so I know a lot of people have little Nigerian dwarf type goats, and they're cute and stuff, and I'm in it for the long haul. I've got a big family to feed, and so I can't get by with just little tiny bits of milk at a time. Oh, please don't touch that. Little tiny bits of milk at a time, because I have a big family. So for me, I like having my Sannins and Alpines because I get about 8 gallons a week from each one of them, and that's what we need. You know, there's 8 of us that are being fed from this homestead, so it benefits us to have those kinds of things. Plus, then when you want to make cheese, it's not, you don't have to wait as long to make cheese. But yeah, so there's lots of people that have goats and cows and stuff, and so there's ways for you to get your hands on fresh milk and make yourself some awesome cheddars or mozzarellas or the soft or the fresh queso cheeses, and there's just lots of fun things. Cheeses are really fun, and you can eat them, you know, like it's a pretty fun, rewarding thing. And the fresh cheeses take you like maybe an hour tops. It's such an easy job to make fresh cheeses. So I might make a video of how to do fresh cheeses, or just different cheeses as that I make, you know, that are just, it's fun. And so sometimes I make a cheddar because this is more of my marathon cheese. It takes a little bit longer. Or I can make like my faster cheeses, like my fresh cheeses, where I can just put the bar above the sink and let it just drip, and when it's done dripping, the cheese is done. And that's like your cheeses that you buy in the store, little packages that are kind of crumbly, the goat cheese. That's a fresh cheese. That's a fresh cheese, and that doesn't take very long to make at all. That's a really fast cheese. So yeah, there's lots of fun things you can do with it. And if you have extra milk, and if you're just dying in milk, then, you know, you can just give some to somebody or feed it to the pigs or something like that. But usually there's a lot of things you can do with fresh milk. So it's really fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you branch out and make some cheeses and have some fun. Bye guys.